So here's a situation. It's Christmas morning, lots of excitement around, and there's a couple in the kitchen preparing the big Christmas dinner. This guy's wife's at the table, and she's just chopped the ends of the roast off, which they're having later on. She's chopped the ends off, and she goes to pop that in the oven. And as she goes to pop it in the oven, the husband stops her and says, "I'm just curious as to why." I've noticed you always chop the ends of the roast off. I've seen you do that now for maybe the last 8, 9, 10 years, and I'm just really curious. I just thought I'd ask, why do you always chop the ends of the roast off? And this guy's wife says, well, like you say, you've been watching me for the last 8, 10 years do that. I always chop the end of the roast off. It's just what I do. She says, yeah, I know that, but why do you do that? She says, well, I do it because, my mum always did it. So that's why I do it. I said, oh, that's interesting. Maybe we should contact your mum and ask her why she chops the ends of the roast off before she puts it in the oven. So they get on the phone to his wife's mum and says, hi, we're just prepping, a Christmas dinner. It's all exciting here. And I was just curious as to why you taught your daughter to always chop the ends of the roast off. Could you tell us why you do that? And the answer, there's a pause, and the answer is, well, I've always done that. Just always. I said, well, yeah. That's what your daughter says, but we just want to know why do you do it? She says, well, I always chop the end of the roast off because, my mum did it. And it's like, I don't believe this. So anyway, they get on the phone to Gran, great Gran. It's like, okay, fine. They're on the phone to her and say, look, great Gran, we're just wondering. We've got a question about the roast and why we always seem to chop the ends of the roast off, because my wife does it, her mum did it, and your daughter did it as well. We just wonder why that was the case. And down the phone there's a bit of a pause, and then Gran comes back with the answer. And Gran says, well, I when I was growing up, we lived in a pretty small house. We had a pretty small kitchen, and we'd go and get a roast from the local butchers for Christmas Day. But what we found was when we got the roast and we tried to get it in the oven, it was just too big. So you had to chop the ends of the roast off to get it into the oven. So that was the answer to why it was being done. And whilst that might sound like a bit of a silly story, here's the point of the story. Sometimes when it comes to losing weight, getting fit, getting started with weight loss, we can do the same stuff over and over again without really knowing why we're doing it. And we can make the same mistakes over and over and over again without knowing why it's all happening. So sometimes it's worth asking a question and stepping back and looking at how you're approaching weight loss in general, because a lot of people do things for no good reason. They do it because maybe they've read it in a magazine, maybe they've done a quick search on YouTube or Google or Facebook and they've seen something that seems to make sense, but they don't know why, but it's worked for somebody. Or maybe it's a friend that's done a certain thing. Again, they don't know quite why they've done it that way, but you try and do it, or you try and copy that, and it's not successful for you. So I think it's wise, again, just to step back, ask a few questions, and just make sure you're not doing things just because that's the way you've always done it. For example, if you've always counted calories when trying to lose weight, why have you done that? Is it really the best way ahead? When it comes to exercise, have you always done, maybe going out jogging or an aerobics class? Is there another way of doing it? Maybe you could approach it from a different angle. So these things are worth thinking about, because until we're prepared to open our minds up to the possibilities of different things and doing things in a different way and approaching things in a different way, we may find ourselves, perpetually caught up in doing the same stuff all the time and never quite getting the results we want. So hopefully that little story's just given you maybe some food for thought, no pun intended. Until the next little training insight video, take very good care and bye for now.